The dealership glittered with polished chrome and holiday decorations, red ribbons on hoods, lights wrapped around pillars, and a fake snow machine puffing soft clouds into the air. Everyone who stepped inside looked like they belonged there, except Mark. His jacket was frayed at the elbows, his boots dusty from work, and the cap on his head carried the logo of the small repair shop he worked at. He didn't mind. He never cared about judging or being judged. But he could tell the moment he walked in, the room did. Two salesmen leaned on a counter near the coffee machine, sipping lattes and scrolling their phones. Their eyes lifted when they heard the door chime. One nudged the other. "Bro, looks like someone's lost," the taller one murmured. The other snorted. "Are looking for the maintenance department. We don't sell cars for that budget." Mark pretended not to hear. He walked slowly between the cars, fingertips gently brushing each side mirror, admiring the shine, the craftsmanship. He paused in front of the silver sedan, Emma's dream car. He could already picture her behind the wheel, her tiny hands gripping the steering wheel, her smile so wide she could barely hold it in. She had been through so much: school, jobs, helping him after her mom passed. She never complained, not once. Christmas was his one chance to give her something big, something meaningful. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, would you like help?" He turned to see a young trainee, nervous but genuine, holding a clipboard too big for him. "Yes," Mark said, nodding toward the sedan. "This one. Can I have a closer look?" From behind, he heard another chuckle. "Ambitious choice," the tall salesman muttered loud enough for customers to hear. "Some people need to know their limits." Mark swallowed the sting but kept his eyes on the car. "I know exactly what I'm doing," he said quietly. The trainee smiled. "Of course, sir. I'll get the keys." And while the laughter continued in the background, Mark stayed focused on one thing: his daughter's Christmas surprise. The trainee returned with the keys, but before he could hand them over, the senior salesman swooped in like he owned the entire building. He adjusted his gold watch, flashed a forced smile, and planted himself between Mark and the car. "This model is one of our premium selections," he said loudly, making sure half the showroom could hear. "It's not cheap. Most people need financing, trade-ins, something." His smirk deepened. "But you probably already knew that, right?" Mark stayed silent. He had dealt with people like this his whole life, judging a man by the dirt on his clothes instead of the weight of his character. "I'd like to test drive it," Mark finally said. The salesman laughed, an exaggerated, theatrical laugh meant to embarrass. "Test drive? For this car?" He tapped the hood like it was made of gold. "It's not a toy, my friend." The trainee shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, he's allowed to test drive any." "Relax, kid," the salesman interrupted. "We're not wasting time on." Mark stepped forward, looking him directly in the eyes. His voice remained calm but firm. "Are you refusing me a test drive?" People nearby had begun watching the exchange. An older couple paused by the SUV section, whispering. The manager glanced over from his glass office but didn't intervene. The salesman swallowed, trying to maintain control. "Fine," he said, tossing the keys a bit too sharply to the trainee. "But don't get your hopes up. This car won't be in your price range." Mark nodded once, choosing not to rise to the bait. The trainee politely opened the door for him, apologizing quietly. "I'm sorry about him, sir. He's like that with everyone." The interior smelled like new leather and winter pine from the hanging air freshener. As Mark began the test drive, he imagined Emma sitting beside him, laughing, telling him he was driving too slow. When they returned, the salesman was waiting with crossed arms and that same arrogant grin. "So," he said, "still interested in a car you definitely can't afford?" But Mark didn't answer. He simply reached for his backpack. The rude salesman leaned against the counter, arms folded, smirk firmly in place. The words, "You can't afford it," still hung in the air like an insult that refused to fade. Mark set his backpack down on the sales desk, not angrily, just deliberately. The zipper's slow opening seemed louder than it should have been, drawing the attention of nearly everyone nearby. The trainee stepped closer, sensing something was about to shift. Mark reached inside and pulled out a thick, neatly packed bundle. Then another, the desk filled with stacks of crisp bills, each secured, counted, unbent. Enough to buy the sedan twice over. The whispering in the showroom died instantly. The salesman's smirk collapsed. "WH, what are you doing?" he muttered, voice cracking. "Paying," Mark said, calm as a winter morning. "Like I told you." A hush fell. Even the holiday music playing overhead suddenly felt too loud. Customers turned to stare. One woman nudged her husband, her eyebrows shooting up. The trainee inhaled sharply. "Sir, this is full payment." Mark nodded. "Every penny." The manager practically ran out of his office, face stretched into the warmest smile money could buy. "Sir, welcome," he exclaimed as if greeting a VIP. "Let's get you taken care of." "Absolutely. Absolutely no problem." But Mark didn't look at the manager. His gaze stayed on the salesman, who now stood frozen, cheeks burning red. The man opened his mouth as if to speak, to apologize, but nothing came out. The manager ushered Mark to his glass office, offering him coffee, water, anything. Paperwork was rushed. The trainee was invited to sit in, smiling like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Mark counted each line in the contract with the same calm steadiness he'd shown the entire time. Once the sale was finalized, the trainee handed him the keys, this time with respect in his eyes. "Congratulations, sir," he said. "Your daughter is going to be very happy." Mark finally allowed himself a small smile. That's the plan. The morning sun hadn't even fully risen, but Mark was already outside, rubbing the frost off the windshield of the silver sedan. Steam rose from the hood, curling in delicate ribbons as he adjusted the rearview mirror. Every detail had to be perfect. Emma appeared at the door, still half asleep, hair sticking out of her messy bun, and her slippers crunching against the thin layer of frost on the porch. "Dad, why are we outside this early? Are we filming something?" she asked, blinking against the cold. Mark smiled, trying to hide the nervous excitement that made his stomach flip. He handed her a small, perfectly wrapped box. Her eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "A present?" she asked, shaking it lightly. "Yes," he said softly. "But first, open it." Emma carefully untied the ribbon, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside lay a single key, shiny, heavy, the kind that fit perfectly in her hand. Her eyes widened. "Dad, is this real?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Mark pointed toward the driveway. "Look." Her gaze traveled slowly, and when it landed on the gleaming silver sedan parked just a few feet away, she gasped so loudly that her breath fogged in the cold air. Her hands flew to her mouth, then she bolted forward, circling the car like a child discovering a treasure. "Dad! Oh my God, Dad!" she squealed, throwing her arms around him. Tears streamed down her cheeks, melting into the snowflakes that had begun to fall gently around them. "How? Why? I can't believe this." Mark hugged her tightly, feeling her tiny body tremble with excitement and disbelief. "Because you earned it," he said simply. "Because you've worked so hard, and you deserve something truly special this Christmas." She pulled back just enough to throw her arms around the car, tracing its curves with a reverence usually reserved for priceless objects. I don't know what to say. It's more than I ever imagined." Mark chuckled, brushing snow from her hair. "Just promise me one thing. Don't forget to drive safely." "I promise," she said, laughing and crying at the same time, leaning against the car. "Thank you, Dad, thank you." As the first light of Christmas morning bathed the driveway, the laughter, the joy, and the disbelief mingled with the soft falling snow. And for Mark, nothing else in the world mattered, just the pure, uncontainable happiness on his daughter's face.